ArchLabs Linux just had a new release. ArchLabs Linux has always been one of my favorite Arch-based Linux distributions. You guys know I'm a big fan of the OpenBox window manager, maybe my all-time favorite window manager. And a lot of you guys always ask me, hey, I want to try OpenBox. What's a good way to get into OpenBox? And I always suggest ArchLabs. ArchLabs was, one of the original kind of minimalist Arch-based OpenBox distros. Now we have several more of them out there. Well, with this new release of ArchLabs, it is a bit of a departure from what you used to know about ArchLabs. They're going to offer more window managers and desktop environments during the installation. The installation itself is also going to be a little different. So let's take a look at it. So let's go over to the DistroWatch website and check out the release announcement here for ArchLabs 2018.12.17. So Matthew Dobson has announced the release of ArchLabs 2018.12.17, originally a minimalist Arch-based live distribution with OpenBox. The latest release is a radical departure from the original concept, as the distribution is now designed for users who like to customize their system during installation. So basically, now they're going to do away with the live environment. It's no longer going to be a live image. You boot it up, it goes straight into a command line installer, I think. Also, during the installation, you can now choose a number of different desktop environments and window managers. According to the announcement here, we have the options of bspwm, Cinnamon, DWM, i3 Gaps, GNOME, KDE Plasma, OpenBox, and XFCE. So, piques my interest. I'm ready to check it out. Today, I'm going to just do a quick first impression kind of look at ArchLabs in VirtualBox. So, let me create a virtual machine. Alright, so I created a VM here. And as expected, you download the ISO. The ISO was about 1.3 gigs in size. And when you fire it up in VirtualBox, or you guys trying this on a USB stick, you put it on a USB stick, plug it into your computer, it basically launches right away into the installer. You get a command prompt to start the install. You have to run the following command, ArchLabs-installer. It tells you to run that on the screen. Alright, I have no idea exactly how this installer is going to go, my first time running through it, but English is our language, that's correct. I'm just going to hit OK. Keyboard layout, US English is chosen for me, that's correct, so nothing to change here, just hit OK. Alright, welcome to ArchLabs installer. This will unpack and help you set up your ArchLabs system. Alright, and it tells you basically how to navigate in this terminal install. I'm familiar with the controls. You're going to use the arrow keys and the tab key to tab over when you need to change things. Anyway, so number one, the device tree. Let's hit that. I've already got some partitions created here. Alright, edit partitions. Do I really need to do this? Let's see. Please choose carefully during mounting and formatting. So I'd already had this VM kind of set up. I'm not sure if I really need to do this again or not. Let's see, show partition tree or do automatic partitioning. Usually when automatic partitioning is available for me in one of these installers, I like to choose that. That way you guys get to see what the automatic partitioning is going to do, rather than me partitioning it myself. Alright, it looks like all data on /dev SDA will be destroyed. So it's going to format the drive. We're going to get a 512 megabyte extend4 boot partition, and an extend4 partition will use all the remaining space, so it'll use about 15 gigs, which is the size of this VM. I created a 15 gig hard drive in this VM. Do we want to continue? Hit enter. Should format the drive. Alright, this may take a second. Okay. And hit OK. Do we want to set up Lux? No. LVM? No. Those are optional. I'm just going to skip them. Mount partitions. Yes, we need to do that. So select root partition. This is the partition where ArchLabs will be installed. So that needs to be probably the big partition here. What file system? Extend4 is kind of the standard on most Linux distros, and that's what I'm going to go with here. But we have the option of Extend3, Extend2, VFAT, NTFS, RiserFS, XFS, etc. format /dev/sda2 as extend4. Sure, why not? All right. Extend4 mount options. So I guess we could add, some of these options for mounting. I don't really need to do any of this, I don't think, so I'm just going to hit OK. All right, do you want to use a separate boot partition? That is required for Lux encryption. I didn't do that, so I don't really need to worry about that, so skip. All right, we need to select our bootloader. Grub is by far the most popular bootloader to install on Linux. I'm just going to go with Grub. All right, swap. Do we need a swap file? Normally in a VM, I don't like to create a swap, so I'm going to choose none. If this was on real hardware, you probably should create a swap, but in a VM, it's wasted space. It's going to create, a 4 gig swap file. In a 15 gig VM, a 4 gig swap file is just 4 gigs of wasted space. So, right, mounting partitions. Let's see. You can now select additional partitions you want mounted. /dev/sda1, which was that 512 meg boot partition that was created. All right, select which file system you want to use /dev/sda1. Okay, sure. Extend4 format. All right. Where do you want the partition mounted? So that was boot. And that boot partition, I think, needed to be extend too, now that I think about that. I might have messed that up. Oh, well. And we're still going to give that one no options. Configure the install. This is where we choose our host name. It's automatically chosen ArchLabs for my host name. That's fine. Language and time zone. So I'm going to have to go down a bit and choose EN for English, US. And that should set up language and time zone for me. All right, time zone. America, Chicago is usually what I choose in these lists. If I can find it. Not sure where I have to go in this list to find it, though. I always have a problem in these kinds of lists when they're not really set up in any kind of normal alphabetical order. I mean, I have no idea. I'm just going to go until I see something. If I spend longer than a minute or two looking, no, I'll just pick anything. I mean, that's a VM. I mean, I have no idea how this thing is organized. I mean, this is confusing as hell. You know what? I think this town in Indiana is in the correct time zone for me, so I just go with that. All right, we need to create a user. I'm going to call my username DT. All right, the password cannot be left empty. Okay, so now I have to go through all that again. Are you kidding me? So now I have to go through this confusing list. Well, this list wasn't confusing, the language list, English, US. But this list, well, no, come on, give me something here. Yeah, that's the town I went with before. Yeah, set that. All right. DT, username. Now tab to get down. We tab to get to the next. Do the arrow keys work? Surely. Yep, the arrow keys work. So type your username, then arrow down to get to the password field. Type a strong and complicated password for security reasons. Then hit down. Reconfirm that strong and complicated password. All right. Arrow down. Now we have to enter a root password, so your sudo password. Another strong and complicated password. Now submit. All right. Which shell to use as the new user's login shell? I think by default ArchLabs uses ZSH, but of course Bash is also available. I like Bash. I'm fine with ZSH though too. We'll just go with ZSH. Select which kernel to use. So, do you want to be on the latest and greatest kernel, or do you want to stick to the LTS kernels? Me personally, on my physical machines, I stick to the LTS kernels. So that's what I'm going to go with during the install. Do we want the mirror list to automatically be sorted? This will take a little longer, yeah. So, all right, configure, or excuse me, select window manager or desktop environment. So, We have the options of i3, DWM, OpenBox, bspwm, GNOME, Cinnamon, Plasma, and XFCE. ArchLabs is well known as a OpenBox distro. When I downloaded the ISO, I expected to try out the OpenBox edition of ArchLabs. That's what I know, that's what I love. But I did not know I would be presented with this. Because I'm presented with some of this, I'm going to try something different. You guys, I'm sure the OpenBox desktop edition of ArchLabs is just fantastic. I know it is. Highly recommended. So I'm going to try something different. Since they offer a bspwm edition and a DWM edition and an i3 edition, I'm going to try one of those tiling window managers. So, you know what? Let's check out bspwm. Alright, select which login management to use. LightDM is certainly the one I want to go with. Select packages. Browsers. Firefox is my preferred browser. Editors. I like Vim. It's always going to be there in the terminal and the command line. If I wanted something graphical, though, Genie is a very nice text editor. Terminals. RxVT Unicode is my preferred, so I'm just going to go with that. Multimedia, gotta have VLC. Anything else I want here? Not really. I like Dead Beef for a nice graphical music player, but I'm not going to install that in a VM. Alright, chat and mail. Thunderbird would be my preferred email client. I will go ahead and install that. Even though it's going to take a little extra time. Let's see. Anything else I need? IRC for IRC chat is something I would always install on my systems. Professional. LibreOffice. I would normally install the full LibreOffice suite. I'm not going to do that in this VM. Anything else? Normally I would install LibreOffice, GIMP, OBS, obviously, to do videos. Kdenlive to edit videos, Audacity to edit audio, GUVC View for a webcam, Simple Screen Recorder. I would normally tick all of this on practically. For purposes of this video, I'm going to skip it all. System, we have options for file managers, Thunar, PCMan, FM, etc. I like PCMan, FM. Although, I'd probably just stick with a terminal file manager and a tiling window manager like Ranger or VIFM or Midnight Commander. Gparted is also available. File Roller for creating and modifying archives for zip and unzip. Yeah, I like Xarchiver. I'll go with that one. We have some font options. The Hack font, Anonymous Pro font. Yeah, these are all good. I'll do the fonts. Alright. Miscellaneous. Steam. I don't need Steam in a VM. Deluge for BitTorrent. I like Deluge. I would normally install that. We need a document viewer. I'd probably go Zathura since it's kind of a minimalist document viewer. We need a PDF viewer. QPDF view is nice. If we need a dock, Plank, Docky, and Cairo dock are all offered. I don't need a dock. Alright, I think we're done. Check choices. If I wanted to see what I've done, but I'm just going to go ahead and install ArchLabs. It'll probably take 5-10 minutes for the install. I'll be back. Okay, and the installation has completed. That took about, 10 minutes. It was a pretty quick installation. So it says press any key to continue. Okay, so we're rebooting the machine here. Our freshly installed ArchLabs with bspwm for the window manager. Okay, we get to LightDM rather quickly, the login manager. Let me type in my password. Looks like we're not going to have any VirtualBox guest editions. Let's see if I can get those installed, though. So I installed the VirtualBox guest editions, and let's see if it works now. Yep, we have a full screen resolution. This is ArchLabs Linux with bspwm window manager. So first things first, to get started, I've used bspwm a little bit in the past. I actually had Arco Linux with bspwm installed on one of my laptops for a couple of months a while back. It's a nice tiling window manager. If you've used one tiling window manager, you've used them all. I've used Xmonad on and off over the years. Probably I first found Xmonad, I don't know, 8, 9 years ago, and lived in it for a while. Lived in Awesome Window Manager for a while. I found Qtile about 5 or 6 years ago, and I have lived in Qtile several times on and off over the years. I love the Qtile tiling window manager. bspwm functions very similar. So most tiling window managers, you hit either the super key or the alt key, depending on which one they're using as the quote mod key, and enter to get a terminal. So super enter probably gets me a terminal, and it does. NeoFetch is included in the terminal. It lets us know we are in fact using bspwm, my terminal of choice. Again, in the installer we selected RxVT. The shell, ZSH, we selected that. Bash, I'm sure, is probably also available. If I type bash in the shell, we can swap over to bash. Yeah, there we go. Packages installed on the system. Only 669 packages installed, but again, I didn't install everything I would really need to live in. I would install the full LibreOffice suite, GIMP and Inkscape and OBS and Kdenlive, and especially the multimedia stuff that I use to create my channel. If I wanted to live in ArchLabs bspwm, I would have to have a lot more stuff installed on the system, but for purposes of this video, I didn't install everything. Now, let me switch back over to ZSH. All right. To close this terminal, any window you open, I'm just going to take a guess, and since the mod key is super, we know it's going to involve the super key. Usually super shift C for close, or super shift Q for quit. Super shift Q was the combination. So, without having the config file up in front of me and reading what the key bindings are set to, this will be a little strange of a review. If I tap the super key just by itself, very cool that actually brings up Rowfeed. I love that. So just tap the super key one time and the Rowfeed launcher comes up. And this is a very easy way for us to figure out what exactly is installed on the system. For example, you guys know I often like to play with wallpapers, for example. Nitrogen is the wallpaper setter that I like to use. Is it installed? It is. If it wasn't installed, it would be a very easy, quick install. But they already have Nitrogen on the system. So let's play around with some of the wallpapers. So about this very first one, I'm going to hit apply. Then I'm going to go to the second workspace. Wow, that is a really classy wallpaper. I actually quite like that. I may not even need to cycle through the rest of them, but I will. How about this one right here? This forest outline looks kind of cool. Yeah, that is not a bad looking wallpaper either. Yeah, some really nice wallpapers in their wallpaper pack. Let's try this one, this little abstract art. Yeah, that's a little busy for me. Not a bad looking wallpaper, but a little busy. Here's one called Old School. Yeah, very plain, but I like plain. I like minimal. I don't mind that one. But you know what? I think I'm going to go back to that very first one. I really like that. I'm going to hit apply. Then super shift Q to quit Nitrogen. So super shift Q always kills the focused window. Just guessing at some other hotkeys. Normally on my tiling window managers, I know a lot of other people do this, they usually have their file manager hotkeyed. A common hotkey for it would be the mod key, super, and F for file manager. And that is in fact what they have here in ArchLabs. So very intuitive, very easy to figure out what some of the key bindings are. So I told ArchLabs I wanted PCManFM as my file manager, so this is PCManFM. PCManFM 1.3.0, lightweight file manager. Okay. I do notice that it didn't create my standard home directory folders, so I don't have, music, video, pictures, documents, downloads, all that. I could create all those, actually create those very easy running a simple command in the terminal. In PCManFM, I did notice that by default it's not showing the hidden files, so we're in my home directory. So if I click show hidden files, then we get all the dot files. The dot files are your hidden files and directories, such as your .config file or your .config directory, which will have all the config files for things like Ranger and Polybar and PCManFM and bspwm. Of course, this is where we would find the bspwm RC file. We could open it in Vim or Genie. Let's see. We open it in Genie here. There's really not much to it. Setting the wallpaper with nitrogen, of course. Polybar was the panel. It's giving us our workspaces 1 through 10 here at the top, 1 through 10. Some stuff about border width and padding, etc. That particular config file doesn't really do much for us. So I'm just going to close that. I'm going to go ahead and close PCManFM. I go back to my home directory though. Again, if I don't show hidden folders, all I have is the bin folder created. Again, it didn't create downloads, documents, and etc. I could probably create that in the terminal, but considering that I'm really just missing a few directories, I would probably just create those myself. I would, just create new folder, downloads, for example. So I had a downloads folder, and then, documents, so, and then videos, music. That's about the only ones I really need. Pictures, it's only about 5 folders that I would need created. So bspwm I'm not that familiar with, so I'm not exactly sure how it handles like tiling layouts. So I'm going to open up a few terminal windows. So super enter gets me a terminal. Super enter gets me one more terminal. Super enter gets me a third terminal. All right. So from here, let's see exactly. On most tiling window managers, what will happen is they will always have one column that is like the main window. You always have like a big window on one side of the screen, usually the left. And then it puts everything else in the other column. So normally when I open up a 4th terminal, you would think it's going to open up somewhere over here. That's usually what most tiling window managers do. So super enter one more time. Does get me another terminal over here, but it puts it in a different kind of layout. I'm going to keep hitting super enter. I'm going to open up a bunch more terminals. I see what it's doing. It is a spiral kind of pattern. You see, it's almost like a snail shell. See how it's doing that? So it opens one over here, and then it splits it, and opens another one here, and then it splits that, and opens it, it keeps spiraling around. So that is pretty neat. Super shift Q to quit a million times. Kill all those terminals. If I just tap super to get Rowfeed, the Rowfeed launcher, to come back up. Let's see, what do we have? We have HTOP. Let's check out HTOP. Let's see what kind of RAM usage we're using. CPU usage, we should be using next to no CPU because we really didn't install much. There's not really any background services or anything running. Just a few systemd things going on. So using, 1 to 3% of the CPU. 213 megs of RAM of the 4 gigs of RAM I gave this VM. So bspwm, very light. So we have HTOP running on workspace 1. If I super 2, I go to workspace 2, and now I hit super, and let's go through the Rowfeed menu and open up something else. Looks like Ranger is installed, so I could open up the Ranger file manager on workspace 2. Now if I super 1, I go back to workspace 1. Super 2 goes back to workspace 2. What if I wanted both of these programs on the same workspace? Well, if I've got focus on Ranger right now, super shift 1 should move Ranger to workspace 1 alongside with HTOP. So super shift 1 takes it to workspace 1. Now I didn't go to workspace 1 with it. I super 1 to go over to workspace 1. And now I have both Ranger and HTOP here on workspace 1. Let me close both of them. Super shift Q twice. Let's see, launch Rowfeed again. Let's see what we can find in Rowfeed. So Thunderbird and Genie we installed. Appearance, I'm assuming that's going to be LX Appearance, or it might be one of the XFCE tools. Oops, I kind of messed things up here in this VM. Now I had to restart the VM there. So you guys saw me accidentally start dragging the entire virtual machine across my screen. Now I use a tiling window manager. I am running Manjaro with the Qtile tiling window manager on the host machine. The VM is running ArchLabs with bspwm tiling window manager. A lot of the same key bindings for both tiling window managers. So when I started, I wanted to drag that window inside the VM with super and the mouse. Well, what I ended up doing was dragging the entire VM around because that is the same key binding or key and mouse binding for my Qtile window manager on my host machine. So if you have a tiling window manager on the host machine and a tiling window manager in the VM, a good practice to avoid things like that, or accidentally closing the VM when you don't want to, or closing programs when you don't want to, is to set the mod key in the VM to something different than what you have on the host machine. So instead of having super as the mod key on my host machine and super as the mod key in the VM, I really should probably change the VM to use the alt key. That way I never accidentally do a command on the host machine that I didn't mean to, and vice versa. Alright, let me super one more time. So type super. We're going to go back to appearance. Let's see what appearance program that was. It looks like it's the XFCE program. And we have some theming options. Now the theming options are not going to do much for us in a tiling window manager. We're not going to use too many GUI programs, so not too many GTK programs, but you can change the themes. I'm going to go back to Rowfeed. I'm going to hit super on the keyboard. Anything else I want to take a look at? VLC we installed, Firefox we installed. Compton is the compositor. Compton's going to give you some transparency and some shadowing effects. By default, a lot of these really minimal window managers like i3, OpenBox, bspwm, they're not going to come with compositing built in, so you have to install a third-party compositing program. Compton is the usual one most people install. So let me open up a terminal again, super, enter. I'm going to do a quick update. Let's see, even though we just installed this thing, was it pulling down like the latest, freshest packages, or is there an update that I could run? There is nothing to do, so everything is already up to date. If I do a quick uname -r, we chose the LTS kernel, so we are on 4.14 LTS kernel. It's kind of an older kernel. The next LTS kernel is actually right around the corner. 4.19 should be an LTS. Now, I like to stay on LTS kernels because usually the kernel updates don't do much for me. I mean, I always am running the same hardware. I'm not always getting like the newest and greatest hardware. So I don't need that latest and greatest kernel. I just stick with the LTS just for stability reasons. Constantly upgrading your kernel, more chances that something could go wrong. You could get that dreaded kernel panic. Super Shift Q, well, I do notice though that since they have the super key by itself to launch Rowfeed, I would change that because it's too easy to accidentally launch Rowfeed when you're trying to do something like Super Shift Q to kill a window, or super enter to get a terminal. Just having super by itself launch Rowfeed, I would change that to something, I don't know, super spacebar, or if you have a full keyboard, maybe super and then like 0 on the keypad. It's usually what I choose. Just super by itself is a little too easy to accidentally launch Rowfeed when you don't mean to. Taking a quick look at the panel at the top, if I use the mouse, will we have any kind of widget effects if I click on like the clock? Yes, we do get a little bit of a calendar. I'm not sure what program they're using for that calendar. If I open Rowfeed again, type calendar, is it Gcalc maybe? What are we using for a calendar? I'm sure I could figure it out if it was really important. Anyway, this widget over here, 4%, I'm assuming is CPU. That does nothing. 11%, it's probably RAM. None of these widgets appear to do anything. The network widget does do something. It gets me this little thing. Disable Wi-Fi, disable networking. Obviously don't want to do that. And then we have volume control. Right now we're muted. If I click on it, it raises the volume to 2%. Will the scroll wheel on the mouse do anything? Yes, it will. The scroll wheel will get me to 100% volume. And now just clicking on it mutes it. Clicking on it again unmutes it. So really neat configuration for their polybar. I probably wouldn't play around with the polybar config much. I might change the names of the workspaces rather than just having numbers. Sometimes I like having names. Maybe play around with the colors, you know, if it doesn't fit with your wallpaper. But other than that, really nice polybar config. So that is just a very, very quick installation and first look, kind of look at ArchLabs Linux 2018.12.17 bspwm. I really wanted to take a look at something other than OpenBox. I actually, when I downloaded the ISO, kind of expected it to be just your standard ArchLabs Linux, which has always been a OpenBox distro. I love OpenBox. I kind of would have enjoyed taking a look at ArchLabs OpenBox again, but the fact that they offered things like i3 and DWM and bspwm kind of intrigued me. So I'm glad I took a look at the bspwm edition. My thoughts on it: the installation. Love the new installer. I like the fact that they don't bother with the live environment. Do you really need a live environment? Probably not. Just get rid of the live environment. You launch straight into that command line installer. It's very easy. It even tells you the command to type ArchLabs-installer, and then it's a pretty standard kind of ncurses installer. Pretty easy to navigate around. I just kind of, to be honest, just quickly half-assed my way through the installer. I didn't read anything. I didn't go to the ArchLabs website to see how to do the installer. It's pretty easy to figure out how to get through that install. So the installer gets an A in my book. Their customized bspwm desktop edition also gets an A in my book. This is a very easy way to get into a tiling window manager for those that are looking to try out a tiling window manager for the first time. bspwm is not a bad choice. i3 is also probably not a bad choice for a first tiling window manager. And if you're looking for a distro that already has them configured and set up for you, give ArchLabs a try. Before I go, this show was made possible by Ansem, Carlos, Chris, David, Leor, Rob, and Tony. They are the producers of the show. They are my highest tiered patrons over on Patreon. This show would not be possible without those guys. The show is also brought to you by, you see all those fine ladies and gentlemen, all those names on the screen? They are the supporters of this channel. If you enjoyed this video, you found this video informative or entertaining, please consider supporting DistroTube over on Patreon. Peace, guys.